What's going on, guys? Welcome to our after credits review of Doctor Strange 2, the Multiverse of Madness. We got a whole lot to talk about, but first, as always, please like and subscribe to our channel. Hit the notification bell so every time we drop new content, you'll be the first one to know about it. And as always, share this thing all across the multiverse so we can bring more people into the conversation. We've got a whole lot to talk about, and this is going to be a huge one-off, what I would call a comprehensive review of the Doctor Strange movie. So check the comments below for chapters, because I've broken everything up into chapters so you can click on the stuff you're most interested in. We're going to talk spoilers, we're going to talk first impressions, we're going to explain some of the things that might be a little more difficult conceptually. We're going to talk about ramifications moving forward in the MCU. We're also going to talk about Easter eggs, some Raimi-isms, and then best of all, my most excited portion, the thing I'm most excited about, we're going to talk multiversal rules. So we got a whole lot of stuff in here, so let's just get right to it. Spoiler-free review here. This was a roller coaster ride. This was a crazy, crazy movie. I think it's probably going to polarize some people. Fan base-wise, if you are a die-hard Marvel fan, read comics, or just really into the story and looking to see a new story moving forward, you're going to be pleased with it. If you are not a huge fan, you're looking just for some entertainment value, you're probably going to be split on it. If you don't like some horror elements, some scarier moments, a little bit of brutality when it comes to the fight scenes, you're probably not going to like it. It's a little bit out there. But if you are into any of those kind of things, you're going to love this. I personally love when Marvel takes risks, when they do things different, when they embrace the weird a little bit. And a lot of times they make movies that are just entertaining for entertaining purposes, and they try to bring in a very large crowd and introduce as many people to the story as possible. So they stay lighthearted, they stay funny, there's not huge ramifications, and some of the TV shows and the other things that maybe you haven't watched, you don't really need to watch. And while there are elements of this movie that you don't need the backstory, there are a whole lot of things in this movie that are specifically tailored for fans. And so I think it's okay from time to time to do things that fans are really into and kind of tell the general audience, hey, you know, we hope you like this, but you're going to have to really step into it and go along for the ride. And so there's a lot of fan servicey type things in this, but it makes for a really great story. It's not something that is off-putting or so out there that it doesn't blend into the story. I think it fits really well with the MCU and a lot of the stories that have gone on. So if you're looking for a roller coaster ride, looking for a whole lot of fun, go for it. It's going to be a lot of fun, but be aware that you might not like some of the horror elements if you are not that kind of fan. So really good risk-taking by Marvel and a really good installment moving forward. It has a lot of elements that are really going to move the MCU forward, especially with the Multiverse of Madness. Let's do a really quick recap of the whole story. This is where we're getting into spoilers, so if you haven't seen the movie yet, hit the like button, come back later on and check it out. But we're going to recap the entire movie so you can kind of get the gist, not only of where the story went, but kind of how simple it was. That's the one thing I really liked about it. For as complicated a story and as complicated an idea as they took on with the multiverse, this story stayed fairly simple. So it was a little bit of a chase battle type thing, and so there's a lot of heart to it. But we start off immediately. There is no title screen. This just jumps right into a scene from the multiverse where Defender Strange and America Chavez are running away from some kind of demon that is chasing after America. They get cornered, and they're going after the Book of Ashanti, and they're not able to get away from it. Strange gets injured. He decides that he's going to have to take America's power from her, and in the course of the whole thing, she gets away from Strange. She is able to get to the Book of Ashanti, but not before this demon attacks her, this monster grabs her, and then she gets scared, which you find out later is what activates her power because she can't really control it, and it pulls her and Strange, who is now dead, into a different multiverse. And that's where the movie starts. There is the Marvel Studios cutscene, and then you jump right into the Doctor Strange that we know, who is getting ready for a wedding. And you see that our Doctor Strange was having a dream, that he was waking up from a dream that he thinks is a dream, but was actually what we just saw at the beginning with this Defender Strange, that version of Doctor Strange. And so our version of Strange thinks that it's a dream or something, goes on about his day, goes to Christine's wedding. We find out that Christine is getting married. We see him interact with the Doctor from the first movie, and Christine gets to have an interaction with Stephen about, are you happy? I'm sorry that things didn't work out with us, and they never quite get their timing right. And that's a big theme throughout the movie, is living with your choices and those kind of things. But we get that conversation. In the middle of that conversation, we get interrupted by some kind of battle. We find out that there is another monster or demon coming after America who has fallen into our universe. And it is this Gargantua character. And this big one-eyed tentacled monster. Stephen jumps off the balcony, goes to fight this thing, saves America, where he's trapped in a bus, starts to fight this demon who we see has runes on him and not some kind of mystic arts inscriptions. And Wong shows up to help in the battle. They defeat this thing, and then they get an opportunity to talk to America, who explains a little bit about the multiverse and says, I'm a multiversal character. I can travel between multiverses. And Strange starts to realize, as she tells her story, that the dream he had matches what happened to her. She confirms that it wasn't a dream, but that it was him imagining or seeing a vision of a version of his multiversal self. They ask her to prove it. She's able to prove it by showing them a variant of Doctor Strange, the the Defender Strange that we saw at the beginning of the movie. And they agree to help her out. They take her to Kamar-Taj. While Wong is taking her to Kamar-Taj to keep her safe, Strange goes to visit Wanda because they recognize the runes and they think that Wanda can help. So you catch up with Wanda, who is living on this pristine apple orchard, living this very calm life. She is also having dreams, we find out, which we now know are visions into the multiverse. She's having dreams as well, and she wakes up and does not have her children with her. Now, as Strange is talking to her, we get a little bit of a hint of what happened in WandaVision, and you understand, if you've seen that, you get a little bit of backstory from that into the fact that Wanda caused some problems. Her chaos magic went crazy, and she thinks that Strange is coming to deal with that. He says, no, that's not why I'm here. They start talking about America, and Wanda lets slip America's name. Strange realizes that Wanda knows more than she's letting on, and Wanda reveals that her pristine world is not everything it's cracked up to be, that in fact, she is in possession of the Darkhold, and that the Darkhold, as she's using it, trying to figure out how to get to her children in other multiverses, the Darkhold has destroyed the world around her, and you see the black markings on her fingers, similar to Agatha's in WandaVision, that prove that she's been corrupted by the Darkhold. Strange leaves. Wanda has given him an ultimatum: deliver America to me or I'm going to start getting violent. Wanda shows up at Kamar-Taj. There's a big battle. Wong gets captured. America freaks out and sends her and Strange through the multiverse. They land in a different version of Earth, which we find out is Earth 838 later on. But in trying to figure out what's going on, they go and try to find the Doctor Strange in that world, only to find out he is dead. And Mordo has become the guardian of the sanctum there in New York. Mordo appears to be a friend, an ally, but we find out while they are talking and sipping tea that Mordo has poisoned the tea, and they pass out and then wake up in these glass cases. And Mordo explains, along with Christine, that they are in these cases for their protection because the multiverse is an odd place. They don't know anything about them, and so they're studying them. Christine explains that they are in Earth 838, that this Strange comes from Earth 616, and Mordo says that the Illuminati, that there is a group in this building that oversees and protects their universe from threats, and Strange is going to go have to talk to them. All the while, including in front of the Illuminati, Strange is saying, Wanda is coming, you have to get away from her, you have to stop this. We find out on the other side of this, back in our universe, that Wanda has figured out how to do something called dream walking, and dream walking will allow you to possess the version of yourself in another universe. And so while Strange is talking to the Illuminati, Wanda possesses a version of herself in that universe, goes and attacks the Illuminati, and all of the Illuminati die trying to stop Wanda. Strange and America and Christine get away. Christine says there's a version of the Book of Ashanti. They go after it and are chased by Wanda the entire way, with a lot of jump scares and a lot of fighting along the way. And then the Book of Ashanti gets destroyed because Wanda catches up to him. Wanda captures America and then sends her back into her universe before our Wanda lets go of the version of Wanda she was possessing. And now Strange and Christine are stuck in their universe while Wanda is in our universe with America and is able to do the spells and stuff that she needs to do. Also in that time, while Steven is in this universe, Wanda's in this universe, Wong and some of his soldiers at Kamartaj managed to destroy the Darkhold, and Wong is tortured into revealing that the Darkhold that she had is merely a copy, and there is a place that the Darkhold was copied from, which is actually a temple, and Wong agrees to take Wanda there, and this temple is on Mount Wundagore, and it is the temple of an ancient demon named Chthon. There's a whole lot of backstory there, a lot of comic stuff you can look into. We're going to kind of gloss over it. So, Strange is in one universe, Wanda's in another universe. Christine and Strange have been teleported to another universe, and they are left to their own devices. They try to go find another version of Doctor Strange, only to find out that version is in possession of the Darkhold. Our Steven decides that he's going to take that Darkhold to use it to get back to Wanda and America. There's a fight. Our Strange wins. And then our Strange uses the Darkhold to dreamwalk back into our universe, into the body of the corpse from the beginning of the movie. He fights Wanda, and with America, who Strange encourages to use her powers and trust her powers, is able to defeat Wanda in a very interesting way, and everything kind of wraps up in that regard. So Wanda kind of comes back to her senses a little bit. She destroys the temple, destroys the Darkhold, and all these other universes, and that's your movie. And so there's a lot of jumping back and forth, but very straightforward, actually. I know that seems really awkward with how long it took me to tell the story, but even with these back and forths and these different characters, it was very easy. My first impressions there was it was easy to follow. They really doubled down on the weirdness. It was a very satisfying story, and there was a lot of character development when it came to Doctor Strange, when it came to America, when it came to Wanda. They really built these characters and really built their identities, and they gave them valid reasons for doing the things they did. And it wasn't the same old tropes where Strange is a rogue element and he's cocky and he's actually trying his best to be a better version of himself. And so in that regard, you didn't have a rehash of some old stories. Wanda, even though there was some resolution in WandaVision, the idea that she was corrupted by the Darkhold and she was giving over to her darker impulses actually fit rather well, and it was a good juxtaposition between her and Strange, who is trying to be the best version of himself, even though he's done bad things, and Wanda, who really hasn't done bad things, but she's giving over to her darker desires. And so that was a really cool back and forth. And then the introduction of America Chavez, who ends up at the end of the movie is at Kamartaj learning underneath the Sorcerer Supreme. So all those things are really great. A few explanations, some things that I want to point out that I think were big deals throughout the movie and might have been a little complicated. So, America explains that dreams are visions of our multiversal selves. At one point, they ask America, well, let's just go find another version of you To which America replies, there are no other versions of me. And they ask her, well, why not? She said, look, I've looked in several universes, but I'm pretty confident that there's not because I don't dream. And so obviously Marvel can do whatever they want. There are infinite universes, and it is possible that they just say, oh, well, she's here. And they're able to, oh, she's in this universe, but you didn't know about it. It's possible to do that, but I like that they made her the one and only. Especially for this movie, they had to funnel it at the end, and they also had to get rid of the Darkhold as well, so that Wanda had a way to come back. Wanda had to go after that one version of America, and it brought the whole story together around America Chavez. It made sense why she crossed paths with all these other people, because she had to. And so it was a really good way to fit all those things together, and it closed some loopholes as well, to not have to worry about all the other versions that might be out there. They just at the beginning of it, they just said, there's only one version of me, and there are multiple versions of the Darkhold, and they set these rules in place, and then they tell the story through it. They don't actually try to explain it with a whole lot of exposition. They just kind of let you understand those things as you go. And so we'll get to those multiversal rules here in a little bit. But one America Chavez, Wanda was affected by the Darkhold, similar to the way Agatha was. You could tell by her dark fingers that she had been kind of taken over by it. I don't think that excuses her actions, and I think she's going to have to deal with that in the future, which leads me to another thing. I don't think she's dead. But they did a good job of keeping the theme from the other shows and the other things you've seen of, the Darkhold takes over its readers and it affects them. If you are not a person who uses chaos magic like Wanda, whose magic manifests in a red way, that Darkhold magic manifests in a purple form, similar to the way it did in Agatha in WandaVision. And so Sinister Strange there at the end has the Darkhold, and he is wielding purple magic. And so some of those elements were still in effect, and you got to see those things just like you did in other shows. So it really still connected. So if you want some of that backstory, go and watch those movies. This was really a story of sinners and saints. There's a lot of Catholic imagery when Strange passes out in Mordo's sanctum after he's been poisoned with the tea. He falls back and he is surrounded by, it's a grate, but it's tiling on the floor, but it gives that aura around him, similar to a Catholic saint. There's several other elements where different versions of Strange are standing in front of the Book of Ashanti, and there's glowing behind his head, standing in front of the sanctum window, and there's glowing behind him. Those kind of things, those elements, those ideas that this is a story of morality, of gray areas, of choices that you make, living with your choices, and the people that are trying to do good they're good, but they're not all good. They have dark pasts and dark things they have to wrestle with. Strange, we know from Endgame, did exactly what he had to do. It was the only way that he saw. He looked at 14 million universes and 14 million timelines, and that's the way that he saw to defeat Thanos. And in our universe, that was the way to do it, and so he made the sacrifice. Wanda doesn't see it that way. She thinks that he could have done something else, that he broke the rules by doing that, which is not true. Her logic is twisted because of the Darkhold and because of her own desires and passions. But Strange did the right thing, but he is haunted by the decision, and people don't understand it. So he has to live with that. He has to live with the fact that people may not view him as a saint, but they view him as part of the problem. Whereas in Earth 838, there's a statue, a shrine to Doctor Strange, and it looks like he's Earth's mightiest hero, but we find out from the Illuminati that he used the Darkhold and he compromised his morality in order to defeat Thanos. And so they did the right thing in getting rid of him. He did a bad thing, but they immortalized him in a very saint-like way. And with Wanda, the same thing. She's doing a lot of bad things, but she even talks about, I'm being reasonable. And if you go back and look, actually, Wanda never gets violent to the point that she is inflicting pain on other people, physical pain, until she is attacked first. So she goes to Camartage. She is, whispering in the ears of people and trying to get them to run away, but not actually killing them until she gets hit with one of those cannon blasts. And when she does, then she gets violent. Then she starts attacking people, and it gets very, very violent very fast. In the Earth 838 with the Illuminati, she says, I don't want to do this. Give me what I want. Let me go. They try to attack her, and she is forced to, I say forced to, she decides to kill them. And so I think because of her relationship with Strange, he has a few more moments where he can, do defensive spells and do things that would not, that normally would not be allowed by Wanda, because she'd just destroy whoever she was coming in contact with. And so while she is still doing horrible, horrible things, you can still see a sense of right and wrong and morality inside of her. And at the end, that finally wins over, and she does the right thing, to the point of bringing a temple down on top of her, which is very symbolic as well. And so you can liken that back to stories of Solomon, liken that back to stories of Samson, who literally brings down a temple on top of himself, and these types of biblical figures that struggle with morality and struggle with doing the right and wrong things. And so there's all kinds of elements in there that flow throughout this story from a morality standpoint. And I thought that was really cool that they were able to use those elements and tell a little bit of a deeper story within this universe. Fighting our demons is another moral thread you could pull at. And this idea of contentment. They ask the question a lot of times, are you happy? Are you happy, Stephen? Are you happy with this? Are you happy with that? What they're really talking about is, are you content? Are you pleased with your choices? Can you live with your choices? You know that there's another world out there where you're a different person. You could swap places with that person, but in order to do that, you would have to do something horrible. You would have to kill that person and take over their life in order to do that. And would you be willing to make that kind of choice in order to have everything you wanted? Or would you rather be morally right but live with the choices that you've made and have to struggle to get to that place? And so really, really awesome moments, living with choices and talking about those things. Ramifications. Let's talk about what this means moving forward. Now, here's where we're going to talk about the Illuminati. And I'm not going to say we were introduced, that they were introduced into the MCU, because the majority of our stories, regardless of where we go in the multiverse, we are always going to come back to Earth 616, our universe, that the people that we know, the stories that we've been seeing from the get-go. I would say that we were made aware of characters like the Inhumans, of characters like X-Men and the Fantastic Four, and then variants like Captain Britain, Captain Carter, or the Maria Rambeau version of Captain Marvel, who we can extrapolate, because Maria became Captain Marvel. It means that Carol Danvers was not the version in their universe that took the test flight and was abducted by the Kree and all those kind of things. That was actually Maria in their universe. So you can kind of pick up on those things, but we were made aware that those characters exist. And if they exist in the 838 universe, they exist in our universe as well. But whether we are behind them, evolution-wise or time-wise, and we have to find those characters, they haven't been created yet, or something's missing, remains to be seen how they're going to introduce them. But just like the What If show, go back and watch my What If videos. You can look at over here. I've got some links to my What If playlist of the episodes. If it exists in the universe, in the multiverse somewhere, it exists in our universe, and we just have to find it, or it has to be created. So we were not introduced to, because they're not in our universe, but we were made aware of the existence of Inhumans, X-Men, and Fantastic Four characters. And we know that the Fantastic Four movie is forthcoming within the MCU, and so we're going to get a lot of those stories, but as a fan service thing, as cameos, as characters that were strong, that you could actually get rid of really quick to up the ante on how powerful Wanda was. It was a really excellent introduction, and it made for just a really bonkers second act of this movie. And then the third act blows it away because it is just so weird and crazy. Ramifications after the fact here, there are no more Darkholds. We got the introduction of the Darkhold in WandaVision, and now that the temple at the top of Mount Wundagore has been destroyed, and we saw the Darkhold being destroyed in the universe that our Doctor Strange was in at the time, he actually says she was able to destroy the Darkhold in all these universes. So they introduced it, they used it, and then they got rid of it. I actually liked that they did that they didn't leave around all these mystical artifacts. There's plenty of artifacts that they can either find in comics or they can use later on and make up. They don't need to keep having all these books around, because then they become MacGuffins in and of themselves. Well, if you can't defeat this person or that person, just go find that book, and that book will do it, and that book will do it. It's not as easy as that. And they need to ground it in reality a little bit, and that means narrowing down the scope of the things that you have to fight those battles. I think it humanizes it, makes it a little more relatable as far as the story is concerned. So no more Darkholds. I don't think that Wanda is gone either. We see the temple fall down around her. We see a burst of chaos magic. I either think she teleports out, or somehow the magic encapsulates her, protects her, or maybe she somehow teleports to another universe. Something happens. My guess, if I had to theorize, Wanda ends up being found somehow, suffering from amnesia and whatnot, by the X-Men, and that's a way that story continues, that Wanda ends up getting connected with them, and then she ends up being able to come back into the fold with a group of people who don't know anything about her, who can vouch for her and say, no, she's a good person, and we know that she's done bad things, but she's not a bad person. And so it would continue that arc in a way that I think is really satisfying, and it would also connect her with the X-Men. So we'll just have to see. I think that's a long way away. And Elizabeth Olsen has confirmed she'd be up to do the role again, but she has not signed a long contract, despite what rumors are there about her signing some 7-movie contract. I looked into that. That's just not true. So America, as I said before, is being trained in Camartage, so she will be a student of the mystic arts, as well as someone who is able to teleport between universes. I like that she will be able to have other powers and other abilities outside of the fact that just, hey, America, open this portal. Oh, you're a good fighter. Like, they're teaching her something. She's going to have more abilities, and she's going to be able to contribute more than just, oh, hey, we need you to open this portal. Thanks, bye. I think they're looking to use her in the future, and that's a way that they can do that, especially with the Young Avengers, if she is a mystic arts person rather than Doctor Strange having to be there with these younger characters. So that's really going to be awesome in the future, and I'm looking forward to seeing how they use that. Other things here, theories here, the 838 universe. I would imagine that there are characters around that will want revenge for what Wanda did to the Illuminati. There are people connected with Maria Rambeau. There are people connected with Captain Carter. Mordo is not dead, and all of the other Fantastic Four members, including Reed Richards' wife and children, are still around. So how does that factor in? Are they going to come back at some point? Are they going to look for her? Is that going to be something that happens? I don't know, but I think that's a real possibility, and that's out there. That's not just going to go away. The incursions. They talked about incursions, and that's a multiversal rule we're about to get to. But in the bonus scene, Clea, who is played by Charlize Theron, shows up and says, hey, you caused an incursion, and we're going to go fix it. And then she opens up a portal to the dark dimension. So where this goes in Doctor Strange 3, or if it pops up someplace else, is going to be really, really awesome. And that is going to be another multiversal jumping episode, TV show, movie, whatever it's going to be. But that's going to be an interesting story to follow, especially the relationship between Doctor Strange and Clea. Will be really, really cool to see with Charlize Theron playing that role. It'll be interesting to see how she fits into the story, or if she's more of a novelty, a cameo item. The third eye took me a little bit to get used to. It is something in the comics that you should definitely go explore as Strange learns to wield mystic power. The Eye of Agamotto is something that was created to house powerful relics, the first of which was the Time Stone, and now it's got some other mystical energy in it. But learning to use that has created some kind of third eye that Strange is able to use in the comics to see truth, to see things more clearly, And so that third eye, I honestly don't hope they use it a ton because it's very off-putting. It's something that we can't wrap our mind around because it looks so odd. But to see it every so often would be interesting, as opposed to watching him do his hands and the eye opening all the time. I think they've kind of played that out and they want to go a little weirder, so that's totally fine. Other than that, ramifications-wise, they could go anywhere with the rest of these stories, so I don't really want to theorize as to what they're going to do, but these are the things left over that are going to have to be addressed somewhere, especially if they're going to bring back some of these characters or they're going to move this story forward. Multiversal rules. This is the part I'm super excited about because there were several things that they taught us along the way about the multiverse that we learned in a very, very simple way. So, one, we've talked about it already, dreams are visions into the lives of our multiversal selves. So anytime you go to sleep and you have a dream, you're being chased, that means there's a version of you out there that is being chased, and you are just kind of seeing that from their perspective. So America says that she doesn't dream. There's only one version of America, and the dream state thing will be an interesting thing that they can play with moving forward. I think that ups the ante for, when you have a dream that somebody's in danger, when you have a dream that you died, oh, there went a version of myself in the multiverse, is a little scarier. It kind of makes your nightmares scarier to know that it's real somewhere, is kind of an interesting thing to play with, and we won't really pull at that thread too much. You can do things that affect the entire multiverse. Now, whether that is only by chaos magic or some other powerful means, Wanda was able to use her magic at Wondercore to destroy all the Darkholds across the entire multiverse. Now, whether you can do that with other abilities or other things in the future remains to be seen, but there is a way, however slim, to affect the entire multiverse all at once. I think that's going to come back into play way down the line when we have some resolution to Kang showing up. I'm calling it now, May 9th, 2022. We'll see. Another multiversal rule, traveling between universes puts strain on those universes. The longer you are in a universe that is not your universe, the more instability there is. I would liken it to the way that Doc Brown in Back to the Future talks about coming into contact with your past or future self. He talks about, the space-time continuum falling apart if you touch, that version of yourself. The idea being that matter cannot occupy the same space, So I'm sure there's some kind of, they'll call it quantum entanglement or something crazy like that. But I would liken it to that the longer you're in a universe where you don't belong, you are, your molecules are vibrating at a different frequency. They'll come up with something to explain that you don't need to be there. It means that traveling to other universes is not as easy as it seems, and that you are not allowed to stay for long, long periods of time. It means that multiversal travel is a very brief thing, and it needs to happen quickly, which means we don't let's just pull this version of Iron Man from that universe and yay, Tony Stark's back. That they're narrowing the scope of these things in these ways. You're able to do something called dreamwalk. Dreamwalking involves projecting yourself somehow. We can't do it with the Darkhold anymore, but possessing yourself, projecting yourself into the body of another version of yourself in the multiverse and being able to walk around. It is a safer way, albeit intrusive and probably morally wrong, way to move around the multiverse without causing an incursion. I would liken incursions to, let's say, balloons or eggs or anything that is, think about fruit. You take 2 apples, 2 oranges, 2 eggs, 2 balloons, and you rub them together long enough, the surface area between the 2 of them is going to get thinner and thinner and thinner until it starts cracking, until it starts breaking, and then you ruin both of the items. In this case, these universes start crossing, energy and things start mixing, and things are just not as they seem. It's very dangerous and unstable. And so as universes break down, that's the kind of thing that happens, and we've already seen that it happens quite a bit. The multiverse worlds have been around a lot longer than our reality has been able to travel to them. Now, I want to point you to a multiverse video here that I have made talking about how the multiverse works. That video was made several months ago. It still holds up, even with this Doctor Strange movie. In Loki, in episode 6 of Loki, He Who Remains explains that there was a massive multiversal war in the future, in the year 3000, way in the future, and he was able to isolate our universe from all the other universes in the multiverse, and he created what he called the sacred timeline. He created the TVA so that the sacred timeline could be protected from what he calls red lines, but I think this Doctor Strange movie would call incursions. That the two things, if our timeline red lines and gets too close to other timelines, there is the ability for us to cross over and create incursions. And that allows people from those universes to connect to ours and ours to connect to theirs. And so He Who Remains explains in Loki episode 6 that he isolated our timeline. When Sylvie kills him, it opened up our universe, it released those protections, and you see the multiverse, our universe, start branching into the other ones. So we, through physics and other theories, may have been able to theorize the multiverse exists and it's out there and it's a possibility. We were never able to travel to it until Loki, until that happened, and now it's capable, it's possible. But because of that, the rest of these universes have been traveling along, doing their thing, while we've been isolated. They've been doing their thing here while we've been isolated. And now that we're able to connect to them, we are jumping into universes that are already aware that there's a multiverse, already aware that there are travelers between universes, because when Strange comes in contact with Mordo in Earth 838, he says, "I thought this day would come because you thought it would come. So tell me all about your universe." So they already know. Christine has been studying those things. She's the one that has been making the distinctions between Earths, 838, 616, and so forth. And so those universes have been going a lot longer and learning about these things, which means they may have means to travel to our universe, and it may have already happened. So it remains to be seen how that happens. And obviously, the TVA has the means to do it, or to travel through time. I would imagine they have the ability to do the other as well. But this idea of incursions and red lines, and I think some of these terminologies are the same. So we'll have to figure that out. Also, another confirmation of that, America has been traveling the multiverse since she was a child. Okay, so it's been going on for quite a while, but we've only been capable of doing it for the last 6 months to a year, 2 years. And so that's a really big deal moving forward, and I think they're going to explore that some. And if you want to know more about that, you should rewatch the Loki series, but especially episode 6, because there's a lot of dialogue there that I'm kind of glad now they put it in a TV episode, because you can get a 30 to 40 minute synopsis of that rather than having to watch a movie and pick it apart. Finally, we're going to talk Easter eggs and what I'm going to term Raimi-isms. Sam Raimi, one of my favorite directors, if only because I am a huge horror movie fan, and one of my favorite series is Evil Dead 2, and Army of Darkness. If you want to learn more about and get a better sense of the horror scenes and the style of Doctor Strange, watch the Evil Dead movies, particularly Evil Dead 2, because there's a lot more in that story. It's a little better done than the first one, because the first one was very, very low budget. The second one actually had some meat to it. And then it leads into Army of Darkness, which is just slapstick, crazy, ridiculous. Raimi likes to do a lot of practical effects, so you see a lot of those things. As far as Easter eggs are concerned, Bruce Campbell is Sam Raimi's longtime friend. He is the star of Evil Dead 2, Army of Darkness, and the Starz TV show Ash vs. the Evil Dead. Bruce Campbell, who plays Ash Williams in those movies. Bruce Campbell appears not only in the Spider-Man movies that Sam Raimi directed years ago with Tobey Maguire, but he appears in this movie as well as the Pizza Papa. And in one of the funnier scenes there, as the Pizza Papa is trying to go after America for stealing his food, Strange throws a spell at him and it causes him to start beating himself up. The funnier thing there is Bruce Campbell's hand is possessed, similar to the way his hand is possessed in Evil Dead and Army of Darkness, and his hand is fighting him. The only difference is in Evil Dead 2, spoiler alert, he grabs his hand and cuts it off to stop it from fighting him, which actually only releases his hand to walk around and torment him separate from his body. So, really cool moment there. When Wanda removes the hex that is shadowing her apple orchard with Doctor Strange, the cottage in the background looks like a disheveled cottage, similar to the one in the Evil Dead movies. At the end of those movies, when the house is starting to crumble and destroy, has a similar look to that, and the whole vibe is kind of the same. The zombie-like characters, Sam Raimi's universe would call them Deadites instead of zombies. Those practical effects that Strange has at the end, where he's kind of missing his face and there's a lot of makeup and stuff, that's a very Sam Raimi thing, where there's not a ton of CG done there. It makes for better close-ups, and he just likes to use practical effects, and it's very, I think it was very well done, right down to the oil from the Ultron bots. When Wanda is fighting the Illuminati, makes her look like a zombie, and she kind of hobbles because she's been walking on broken glass, and so the zombie-like elements there are very, very terrifying. A couple of just regular run-of-the-mill Easter eggs at the beginning in New York when Strange is fighting the Gargantua big eyeball guy. There's a billboard for a billboard bus sign for tea, a specific type of tea. I think it's something like sleepy time tea or poison tea or something like that. But it's a foreshadowing of the fact that later on, Mordo poisons Stephen and America with tea laced with the sands of Visanti or Nishanti or whatever they call it. Another part of that fight, there is a store in Earth 838 when they bust through into that universe called McCloud Books. And McCloud being MCLEOD, McCloud. That is a reference could be a reference to a specific comic book character, but I don't think so. More likely that is a reference to a guy named Bob McCloud, who is an X-Men writer and a Marvel artist. So cool little throw in there. Maybe somebody that Sam Raimi knew, or maybe something that just the design operators kind of threw in there because there's some foreshadowing to what's coming. The Volker's apple crate, they kind of pause on this apple crate in Wanda's apple orchard, and it said Volker's on it. That is a reference possibly to a character named Wendell Volkers, which may or may not pop up, but he has connections with Baron Zemo, who also has some connections with Von Doom and some other Fantastic Four, X-Men type things. And so they're kind of throwing these little things in there now because you have to remember, as they're making these movies, some of these guys know the little bits and pieces that are coming and where these stories are headed. And so they might have been reading these stories or thinking about these things and have kind of rubbed elbows or talked about these different characters, and they just have this list of names who are like, oh, let's just make it this, let's make it that. And so you can pick up on these things and kind of extrapolate, maybe they're talking about this, maybe they're talking about that. So a whole lot of stuff that we just went through there, guys. If you stuck with us through the end, awesome, amazing. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for being a part of my channel. Thank you guys for liking, subscribing. I hope that you share videos like this or my channel with other people. If you're not subscribed, please do that. We have a lot of people that watch our videos that aren't subscribed yet. But if you want more content, you can check me out on TikTok. I do some little short versions of a lot of the stuff we've talked about. Or you can check out some of my other content over here. We got plenty of things to sink your teeth into, including this multiverse video to kind of explain some of those rules. As always, guys, when the next one drops, we'll catch you right back here. Later.